Hello, today I will be reviewing an interview on Tucker Carlson Tonight. The interview was given by Tulsi Gabbard, and she was interviewing George Santos. I will also be looking at kind of like a commentary Twitter thread that Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene posted about the interview. I'm going to be starting the interview at about 1:40, and I probably will cut it off just because of time. It's a 8.5-minute interview, but I'll put the link to this thread in the description so that you can go watch the entire thing if you'd like to. So let's look at what she said about the interview. What Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene said about the interview right here. Tulsi Gabbard, who says she is a former Democrat, gave Representative-elect George Santos zero grace, while George is admitting and apologizing for lying about his resume, just like her former colleagues are giving George zero grace and even demanding he resign. Next, look at the interview. Santos tends to try to subvert conversation and kind of avoid the questions Tulsi Gabbard is posing toward him. He does this consistently, and it is trying not to answer her questions, which is a red herring fallacy. Let's just watch it.
Congressman-elect Santos, thank you for joining us today. The first question I really want to ask you, now that all this has been revealed, is what does the word integrity mean to you?
Well, Tulsi, thank you for having me. To answer your question, integrity is very important. And like I said to the New York Post, embellishing
what does it mean, though? What does it mean? Because the meaning of the word actually matters in practice.
Okay, so there he tried to get away. You saw he didn't answer her question. She caught it. She said, "No, that wasn't my question. What does the word integrity mean?"
Of course, it means to carry yourself in an honorable way.
There
and
he
I
answers
made a mistake.
it.
And I think humans are flawed, and we all make mistakes, Tulsi. I think we can all look at ourselves in the mirror and admit that once in our life we made a mistake. I'm having to admit this in national television for the whole country to see, and I have the courage to do so because I believe that in order to move past this and move forward and be an effective member of Congress, I have to face my mistakes, and I'm facing them. The reality is that I remain committed to doing everything I set forward in my campaign. I'm not a fraud. I'm not a fake. I didn't materialize from thin air. I worked damn hard to get where I got my entire life. Life wasn't easy. It didn't start off easy. As I've said it many, many times, I come from abject poverty. I made some mistakes, and I own up to them. And now I want to put this past me so I can deliver for the American people.
The thing is, Congressman-elect, integrity means, yes, carrying yourself with honor, but it means telling the truth, being a person of integrity. And if I were one of those in New York's 3rd District right now that the election is over, and I'm finding out all of these lies that you've told, not just one little lie or one little embellishment, these are blatant lies. My question is, do you have no shame? Do you have no shame in the people who are now you're asking to trust you to go and be their voice for them, their families, and their kids in Washington?
Tulsi, I can say the same thing about the Democrats and the party. Look at Joe Biden. Joe Biden has been lying to the American people for 40 years. He's the president of the United States. Democrats resoundingly support him. Do they have no shame? I've made this very clear.
This is not about the Democratic Party, though. This is about your relationship, frankly, with the people who've entrusted you to go and fight for them. And I think one of the questions that really probably hits home to a lot of people is are you Jewish?
Okay, so before we move on past that point, I will point out that he completely did not answer the question. He was subverting the conversation, and she caught it like he did not ever end up answering the question.
We've got a letter that your campaign sent out earlier this year, which reads as follows. As a proud American Jew, I've been to Israel numerous times for educational, business, and leisurely trips. You said there in that letter that you are, quote, a proud American Jew. How do you explain that?
My heritage is Jewish. I've always identified as Jewish. I was raised a practicing Catholic. I think I've gone through this. Even I've not being raised a practicing Jew, I've always joked with friends and circles, even in the campaign, I'd say, guys, I'm Jewish. Remember, I was raised Catholic. So, look, I understand everybody wants to nitpick at me. I'm going to reassure this once and for all. I'm not a facade, I'm not a persona. I have an extensive career that I worked really hard to achieve, and I'm going to deliver from my experience because I remain committed in delivering results for the American people. I campaigned on inflation, I campaigned on crime, I campaigned on education, I campaigned on delivering results for the American people. That's what the people of the 3rd Congressional District heard me on and on as I campaigned. Now it's going to be incumbent upon me to deliver on those results, and I look forward to servicing
exactly right.
and serving my district. I look forward to serving my people in my district to make sure that they see that this is what...
The results that people are looking for are called into question when you tell blatant lies, not embellishments. And this is I think one of the biggest concerns, Congressman-elect, is that you don't really seem to be taking this seriously. You've apologized, you said you've made mistakes, but you've outright lied. A lie is not an embellishment on a resume. You said you worked at Goldman Sachs and Citigroup, but they've said, we've got no record of this guy working for us. You've said you've gone to and graduated from these universities, but they've said, well, we've got no record of that. These are blatant lies, and it calls into question how your constituents and the American people can believe anything that you may say when you are standing on the floor of the House of Representatives, supposedly fighting for them. That's the real issue here.
Well, look, I agree with what you're saying, and as I stated, and I continue, we can debate my resume and how I worked with firms such as Goldman
Is it debatable, or is it just false?
No,
is it debatable, or is it just
debatable.
false?
No, it's not false at all. It's debatable. I can sit down and explain to you what you can do in private equity, in capital intro, via servicing limited partners and general partners, and we can have this discussion that's going to go way above the American people's head. But that's...
Okay, so that's the part of the interview that I'm going to cover, because the rest of it, you can watch the rest of it. Like I said, I will link to this whole Twitter thread in the description so that you can go watch it if you want to. But this is just the part that I'm going to go over. So, Tulsi Gabbard, you can see she makes an argument. She says, "You lied. How can we trust you?" So let me pull up this. This would basically be the conclusion of her argument, and her premise would be, you are a person who lied. So from that you can get your middle premise as, no people who lie are trustworthy people. So therefore, no trustworthy people are you. So this is Tulsi Gabbard's argument against George Santos. You are a person who lied. No people who lie are trustworthy people. Therefore, no trustworthy people are you. This is logically valid. It follows the 7 terminological rules, and there's no fallacy. So it is a valid syllogism. I want to highlight real quick that validity and truth are not the same thing. Validity is the format of your syllogism. Truth is if your syllogism is true or not. Soundness is when it's both valid or truth. So this is Tulsi Gabbard's. So now we're going to look at the rest of the thread from Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. So Tulsi says that George's actions on the House floor are what is most important, but George has not even had the chance to take action for his district on the House floor because he isn't even sworn in yet. That is her first argument. She was basically saying Santos has not been able to do anything in the House yet. That would be basically what her conclusion would look like. The rest of the premises of this would look something like this. All people who have done something in the House are people who have been sworn in. No people who are sworn in are George Santos. No people who have done something in the House are George Santos. Logical form is the wording of it can get a little bit weird sounding. But again, this follows the 7 terminological rules. It's not fallacious, it's valid. So if we go down farther, he says, Tulsi also says, how can his district believe anything he says when he is standing on the House floor fighting for them? I too believe actions and words are extremely important, but I don't think a former Democrat, she's talking about Tulsi here, whose actions on the House floor as recent as 2020 that gave her an A from Planned Parenthood and an F from the NRA, and introduced a climate agenda signature piece of legislation called the OFF Act, designed to end all fossil fuels. the same as AOC's Green New Deal, should lecture a newly elected Republican member of Congress on how he should vote to represent his Republican district. I do appreciate that Tulsi says words that sound conservative now, even though she can't take action to back them up. I'm glad she, like George, realized that she made mistakes and was wrong every time she voted to support killing the unborn, taking away our gun rights, and legislated to kill America's energy independence and the fossil fuel industry. I hope Tulsi is sincere, just like I hope George is sincere. I think we Republicans should give George Santos a chance and see how he legislates and votes, not treat him the same as the left is. Well, she makes another argument for George, but more specifically, it's an argument against Tulsi Gabbard. Her argument is kind of highlighted in these two tweets. So, I too believe actions and words are extremely important, but I don't think a former Democrat whose actions on the House floor is recent of 2020 that gave her an A from Planned Parenthood, an F from the NRA, and introduced a climate agenda signature piece of legislation called the OFF Act designed to end all fossil fuels, should lecture a newly elected Republican member of Congress on how he should vote to represent his Republican district. So, her conclusion looks like, so no people who are qualified to question other people who have changed are you referring to Tulsi Gabbard. And her premise, this follows the 7 terminological rules. However, this syllogism is all you are a person who has changed. No people who have changed are qualified to question other people who have changed. Therefore, no people who are qualified to question other people who have changed are you. There's a fallacy. It is called tu quo que. Tu quo que is the you too fallacy. It means it's Marjorie Taylor Greene is saying because Tulsi Gabbard has changed as a person before, she herself has done things and said things that have contradicted what she's saying now, that she is not qualified to question George Santos because of that, which is a fallacy. It's a form of ad hominem. An ad hominem is where you attack or argue against the person making these arguments. This would fall under an ad hominem fallacy as well, but it's just kind of like a more specific type of ad hominem. I should note that just because an argument is malicious doesn't mean it's inherently, the premise of the argument is inherently wrong. In some cases, what you're saying about the person may be inherently true, but it has no bearing on the argument. That is pretty much all I have for the interview and this thread. I will have the link to the thread in the description. If you have any ideas of interviews or speeches or social media threads that you want me to look at, you can post your suggestions in the comments and I will look at them and see if maybe I can do a video about them. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.